Okay, buddy, it's all yours. The one and only Barry Feldman.
Thanks, Antone. All right, well, we'll get started. As he's told you, my name is Barry Feldman. My company is Feldman Creative. If you happen to be online sharing some of the things I'm going to say today or want to ask questions, I suppose we don't have a hashtag. Anton, go ahead and tell me if we do have a hashtag. If not, use my Twitter handle at Feldman Creative, and I'll be sure to see it, and I can answer your questions soon after. And then I'll take your questions live with 15, 10 minutes to go, something like that. So let me tell you just a little tiny bit about myself that we haven't covered. I guess if you were here early, you learned from Antone that I have been doing this really since the dawn of the internet, and have therefore my marketing experience actually precedes the internet, and so I saw it grow up, and I've learned a lot. And I'm going to share much about what I've learned with you today in terms of copywriting and conversion. And if you've been to other conversion webinars, perhaps you've heard quite a bit about testing and analytics and heat mapping and a variety of technologies where you basically compare things to each other. This is not one of those presentations. There's plenty of those around, and I'm all for you going to learn more at these various presentations about conversion rate optimization. But my presentation is about how we use words and copywriting in an attempt to convert, and I call that the comfort zone, because it's based on a very simple concept that we either feel comfortable when we get somewhere, or we feel uncomfortable and we leave. So how do I advance the slide now? Okay, up here. All right, so I begin with this, kind of your typical how's it going type of question. How are you feeling? Now, I ask this for a reason, and it traces to my concept or my theme of the comfort zone. Maybe you don't know me. Maybe you've never been to one of the webinars in this series before. Maybe you've never been to a webinar, period. I think somebody said they're attending for the first time. This is kind of the case when you do anything online, really even offline. When you are looking for information and you're shopping and you're new somewhere, it's human nature when you're interacting with someone or something for the first time to be curious, but also anxious, right? Our fingers forever on the back button. You know, we're very quick to leave. They say we have attention spans shorter than goldfish now. And so our guard's typically up, our wallet's tucked away, any little bump and away we go. So we, as writers, are looking to invite people. You saw a bed before. We want to make them feel comfortable. Now you see a bed of nails. Discomfort is the mother of all conversion killers. And whose job is it to deal with this? If you're a copywriter or you're playing the role of copywriter, it's yours. You are the chief conversion officer. And that's not all. Let's see here. I have a list of things that the copywriter is also. Where is my list? You are, the copywriter is your tour guide. He's your instructor, concierge, maitre d', and of course, sales clique. Pardon me, sales clerk. So if the copywriter can't seal the deal, you know, not every page is meant to ask people to get out their wallet. They have to start some sort of relationship, you know, and that relationship relates to the idea of conversion. So you indeed have to put on your chief conversion officer hat. We're going to look at how you do that, but first I want to talk a little bit about psychology. If you've been paying close attention to online marketing for the last, let's say, this decade, the term conversion has become awfully popular. And I want to talk briefly about what it means to you and what it means to me, and perhaps adjust a little bit your expectations about conversion. If you look at this definition that comes from an online dictionary, you'll see, if your screen's big enough, that I've underlined the synonyms that best define convert. And it says change, turn, and transform. And I think that that is a very ambitious goal for us as online marketers. I really don't think that we change or transform our readers. What I mean to say by that is conversion really or you have to think about it in this terms. The people that are at your website are there for a reason. They already want something. Let me throw some examples at you. If you have a dating website, um, people come to your website, they're looking for dates. It's not your job to convince them that dating is good or companionship is good or love is good. These are understood. If you have an antivirus software package or SaaS model and someone comes to your website, it's not your job to convince them that viruses are bad or malware is bad or there's criminals online. This is understood. And so your job, in my mind, psychologically speaking, is not so much to convert, but here's what I'm going to define it as. Oops, I forgot that slide. So the question I challenge you is, do we really change people? And I have an example again of what I mean. This is a very famous ad campaign, and then I hope it covers the world like this webinar actually does. It's certainly famous in the United States, and it's a slogan that's been run for Vegas forever, and it says, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." The suggestion here is the product of Vegas is misbehavior, sinning, staying up too late, fooling around, wasting your money. Sort of, and they call it Sin City for a reason. But Vegas knows that. They're not trying to sell you that. They're trying to appeal to a desire that already exists, right? Just like the dating site example, just like the antivirus example, okay? And so conversion to me, and I think conversion to you as a website copywriter, should be rethought with this definition. You need to get your customer to agree this is the time and the place to take action. So I have for you, that's slide 2. So bring it full circle, wrap it up. I'm about to begin 7 lessons for you. Yeah, you need to get viewers and readers into their comfort zone. That's the concept at work here. When we convert them, we're not transforming them so much as we're making them think, I'm comfortable enough right here and right now to take action. Because when readers don't feel good, they're gone. So we are going to review now for the rest of this presentation in the next 30 minutes or so what I've identified as 7 common causes of discomfort. There are 7 chapters of this presentation. And the first one is confusion. Confusion is your first and your worst nemesis. And the key to overcoming confusion is clarity. And the key to clarity is writing a clear headline. Now, I'm not saying don't be clever. You might have heard this piece of advice a lot, and as a copywriter, I'm going to tell you here and now, I reject that advice. You often hear, don't be clever, don't be ambiguous, don't be oblique, okay? If you know what those words mean, I agree with that. You want to get to the point. You want to make your communications fast. However, there's nothing wrong with being clever. You also want to stand out. So I guess when it comes right down to it, if it's a battle between cleverness and clarity, allow clarity to win and write a clear headline. And now I'm going to demonstrate some fairly common examples of what I mean by that. The clarity that I'm talking about in a headline means to connect what you just saw and what inspired you to click to what you're about to see when you go to a landing page. And the definition of landing page, we'll play with that a little bit throughout this presentation. For now, let's just say it's the page you land on. But often when we use the word landing page, we're talking about a lead capture page, a page that has a form, or a page that has a call to action. All right, so you might come across a keyword or an idea that inspires you to click in any long number of places. For example, an email, a pay-per-click ad, search results, the list goes on and on. I spend a lot of time on Twitter, and Twitter now, allows this sort of multimedia approach that in this case includes images. And so I'm going to show you some before and afters that I feel are bad examples and good examples of clarity and connectivity, mental connectivity in terms of headlines. So here we have a Twitter ad, atop my stream because Twitter knows how I behave, and because of that behavior algorithm that they have, they've assumed that this is a good ad to serve me. It's from a company called Relate IQ, And I don't know that much about this company, but while it might not be an award-winning headline, it's a reasonably good headline and it gets to the point. It says the smarter, simpler CRM, meaning customer relationship management. So, being that I'm in sales and marketing, it makes sense for me to see the ad here. And I've taken in the ad and I click. Okay, now down below is what I see on the landing page. And now I don't see a connection. I see a disconnection. I'm confused and I'm probably going to leave. I'm not comfortable with the transition that just took place. The only continuity I see from what I saw before and what I see now is the little green logo. And even that's changed a little bit. Now we do have a desktop environment. It was a kind of cluttered. Now it's all simplified. It was a low point of view, like you and I are looking at our computers on our desk. Now suddenly we're on the ceiling looking down with a bird's eye view. It looks like a different desktop. Everything's organized, and the headline, most importantly, says everything you need and nothing to get in your way. And I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. I thought I was looking for smarter, simpler CRM, and this headline does not use those words. I'm confused. Clarity does not exist here. I'm probably out of here. My prediction would be this combination of Twitter ad and landing page converts very poorly. Now here's an example where I think a strong connection is made and conversion probably is fairly high. Once again, I'm at the top of my Twitter stream and I'm seeing an ad for a company that has some sort of SaaS-based software called Domo. If you look up close in their tweet, it says spreadsheets are old news. Okay, spreadsheets is definitely the key word here. If you look at the black and white image, we see a stressed out guy. It looks like he's overwhelmed with paper. And it says, still using spreadsheets? Very clear subhead there, how spreadsheets are messing with your bottom line. Learn more. I click. Okay, then we go down below on my slide and we see my landing page that I came to. Once again, the keyword connection is perfect. It's the same exact headline, still using spreadsheets. It appears to be the same stressed out guy. It's a slightly different photo, but it looks like the same photo shoot. So I think that tells an interesting story. And now they have a very clear and clean landing page that gets to the point, clearly is offering some sort of downloadable information, and they want me to fill out the form. So it's a great example in my mind of clarity, and the key I'm talking about here is the connection between what you saw before and what you see next. Okay, so before we wrap up this chapter on clarity, I also want to warn you to watch your language. And by that, I don't mean, cussing. I mean, the words that you choose are often bull, marketing bull, and industry jargon. And this is a result of decisions made by committee with executives in the room that are pushing their opinions on marketers without really understanding the audience and without really understanding marketing. And so sitting around the room, they come up with meaningless phrases like state of the art or core competency. I probably could have made this list, a lot of slides and gone on because there's so many throwaway words in marketing that don't mean anything. I didn't even write this slogan I put up on this slide. Listen to this: executing real-world operational strategies to propel innovation. How horrible is that? That's just marketing gobbledygook. It doesn't mean anything and doesn't differentiate this company in any way. So you need to nix the marketing babble to avoid this confusion and clarity, and say what you sell and how it helps. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. As you see here, like I promised, we have 7 chapters, and we've completed 1, and chapter number 2 is about distraction. Now, I will grant you that distraction is often, the bad guy. If we have a distracting page on our website, is often the graphic designer. You very quickly come to the conclusion that there's not a lot of organization, not a lot of white space. There's not a lot of good focus on this page, and therefore it's hard to find what I'm looking for, and I'm out of here. But this is not a presentation about graphic design. This webinar focuses on copywriting. So let's talk about overcoming distraction by focusing with the words that you choose. All right, first and foremost, keep it simple. Every web page has one job to do. Is that website, pardon me, is that web page's job to get your email address? If so, make that perfectly clear. Are we trying to get you to click a button that allows you to sign up for a webinar? Are we trying to get you to go to the next page? Are we trying to get you to download something? Are we trying to get you to say something or share something? Define the singular job you want your web page to do and focus on it. Keep it as simple as possible. Pretty good example here. This is a landing page from a company called Shopify. You might be familiar with their offering. And this landing page keeps it simple. That headline jumps right off the page. Use Shopify to create your online store. I'm thinking now it's not the best example. I should replace this one probably because a great landing page will not have navigational elements on there either. So perhaps this page does invite me to click something other than the form fill. But indeed, they got to the point. Down below is a fairly urgent headline or subheadline. Start your free 14-day trial today, and they know exactly what they want from me. And then a nice active verb in the button, create your store. So I'm fond of this one as an example of focusing on a singular ask. And now here we go again. I'm often asked, well, what if I want to create a larger story? And so I selected this one because I think this is a good landing page too. This comes from Freshdesk, and I get here, and the first thing I see is powerful ticketing and a good subhead that goes underneath it. Kill the chores, become a pro with help desk automations. And there's the form. And so it's pretty clear they want their form filled out. And so I think this is well done. However, then you ask yourself, well, what about all these other elements? There is customer testimonials. And there are 4 subsections or pods. Each has an icon and then a subhead and an explanation. And down below that are logos, probably happy customers. And so my point is here, that's okay, because this is presented as a pyramid with the most important information first. And so it's okay to build your case, just making sure that everything on that page builds your case and works towards completing the goal. So write what needs to be written. I like this little expression I made up. Don't count characters, but make every character count. I wrote that because I'm constantly asked, how long should a headline be? How long should a something or other be? How long should a landing page be? How long should a blog post be? And there is no correct answer to that question. It should be no longer than it has to be to make every word count. And and not shorten just because somebody told you about the need for brevity online. People will read, consume, and act if you kept their interest. All right, so we move on to the 3rd chapter, and I'm going to ask you to give me just a second. I notice my window's open, and you might be hearing some background noise, and so I am going to take a pause and close my window. All right, sorry about that, but I was hearing lawnmowers, and I don't know if you were, but I was hoping that they're not getting closer and they don't get in the way for the rest of the presentation. So we'll move on now to Chapter 3, which is about apathy. What are we talking about when we talk about apathy? We're talking about a lack of interest or enthusiasm or concern. Apathy can set in any step along the way when your pitch begins to feel optional, less urgent, or relevant. So your job as a copywriter is to not let that happen. It's to make everything feel necessary and immediate and, of course, relevant. So here, I hope you can see this clearly. I came up with an acronym. Acronym is not the perfect word for it because it doesn't spell anything. I came up with a little technique, I suppose, that goes A, B, C, D, E. So the first 5 letters of the English language as a formula for overcoming apathy by keeping readers emotionally invested. That is your remedy for apathy. And so you can have access to this later, and I can share this infographic if you'd like to get it in full size. But I'm going to walk you through one at a time now on a sequence of slides, my ABCDE sequence. A is for application, okay? You need a selling proposition. Do not pass go until you've answered the question, why. You need to be able to articulate how your offer applies to the reader's needs. And B is for benefits. This might be the most important one and my favorite one. You need to answer the question, what's in it for me? Me being your reader, of course. So check this out. This is a great little shortcut and exercise that I was taught like maybe the first time I ever took a copywriting course. The teacher walks to the front of the room on a whiteboard and he writes, how to blank, period. And he says, we're going to begin our headline writing exercise by filling that in. Ultimately, what you're going to be doing is forced to put a benefit in there, forced to make a promise to your reader. So think about this very simple example. This is what I love about it. You can't put a feature in that blank. It doesn't make sense. So let's say we're talking about a remote control. How to remote control doesn't make sense. It's a feature. How to change the channel or the volume of your television without getting off your couch is a benefit, okay? And so that's the beauty of this sequence here. First, A, application, B, benefit. Fill in the how-to blank, and you're going to have a winner, or at least you're going to have a starting point for a headline that's not going to allow the reader to lose interest due to apathy. So we continue after this slide with the CDE. Right now I want to show you an example of exactly what I mean. This company, BidSketch, which apparently is an online service, another SaaS, aiming to sell you an application for which you can create proposals quickly. And so imagine that they are looking at that whiteboard that I was just talking about, and it says how to blank. And they put in there, create professional client proposals in minutes. Right on BidSketch, perfectly executed example of what I mean. Application, it's for proposals, right? And the benefit is the speed of it. They could have had the headline, how to create professional client proposals in minutes. It's a very common trick, although the how-to headline might be the most popular headline in the world, especially for blogs. But here, they've chosen, as writers often do, to hack off the how-to. So we just have the part that went in the blank. But a very great example and a very simple landing page and a good example of some of the concepts I've already presented and some of the ones I'm about to. So remember, we're stepping through my ABCD infographic, and we move now to C. C is for context. I propose that putting yourself in your reader's shoes, and you should not be afraid to be as specific or even as polarizing as possible, right? Just before we were looking at examples of saying of landing pages that said, this is for you if you want to create client proposals. This is for you if you want to have a ticketing system. This is for you if you want to sell online. The mistake too many marketers make is they try to be everything to everybody. And I propose that disqualification, okay, understanding the context of your reader and whether you can or can't help them, disqualification is as powerful or more powerful than qualification. So don't be afraid to disqualify your readers. D might be one of the tougher questions to answer in your marketing meetings, but just like I hope you're sitting around with the executives and the people that are closest to your customers and deciding on the answer to the why. Why do we exist? What's our unique selling proposition? I hope you're also thinking, well, is it so unique that it makes us unique to the whole industry? Are we the only company that solves this problem? There's a very good chance, I'm going to say close to 100% chance that your solution's not so unique that you do not have competition. And so I think as you're going through and trying to tell a compelling story that makes it impossible to be apathetic, and when you get to this D, you answer this question, what can you deliver unlike anybody else? I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying give it a try. And E is for emotions. Finally, when you are trying to tackle the idea of apathy, if you use dull words, predictable words, particularly in your headlines and your call to actions, ask yourself before you publish that, go back to your copy and your manuscript and say, can I replace these words that are sort of, less emotional, less impactful with more powerful words. And to do that, you think about your reader in terms of their pleasures and their pains. That's how we make decisions, right? We seek pleasure and we seek to avoid pain, probably even more so than the first example. And so here's an example of what I mean. This is something I did write for a client called Vendamore. That's in a business called account-based marketing, basically allocating your marketing dollars on target accounts, focusing on large accounts where you get the most bang for your buck. And so they had a little problem with their homepage with a lack of clarity. And though I think you could say that this little header or hero shot that I wrote for them is also an example of A and B, right? Application and benefits. I wanted to show it to you as an example of C, D, and E, context, difference, and emotions. So the headline reads, the headline reads, become the marketer your sales team loves. Learn how to invest your marketing money precisely where it will generate revenues. So there's the context, right? It's for marketers. And what's the difference? The difference is they focus on budgeting smartly. And the emotion's pretty obvious, I hope. Love, right? Marketers don't get a lot of love from their salespeople. And so we identified that problem and said, now with account-based marketing and the solution we're about to demonstrate to you on our website, you're going to get the love you deserve. All right, so thus concludes our chapter about apathy. And you might start to pick up on a little bit of overlap through these themes, and that's okay. But I had a lot of ideas I wanted to put in here, so I separated it into 7 chapters. So now we're going to move on to boredom. Obviously, boredom is bad, and bored readers bail. You cannot bore people into buying things. I'm not sure if this next line is short enough to be tweetable, but I certainly loved it when I wrote it. I write, if attention is the web's golden goose, boredom is its rotten egg. So how do you overcome boredom? In my opinion, we talked about competition. In my opinion, if we're tackling common themes, as a lot of us marketers do, and I'm going to speak strictly about content marketing since it's my area. If we're looking for, let's say it's social media advice instead of content marketing, if we're looking, if the story is about how to do Facebook ads or how to get more Twitter followers or how to optimize your web pages for search or that sort of stuff, are we going to be the only ones publishing a story about that today or this week or this month? No, there's going to be thousands, maybe tens of thousands. These are very common topics. Does that mean you shouldn't publish them? No. If it's relevant to your audience and you think it's helpful, you should publish them. But I think your goal as a blogger and a content marketer is not to get people to your website. Think about that for a second. That sounds a little shocking. But I think your goal is to get people to subscribe to your website, to come to your website and have a fun experience, because they make choices all day long about how they're going to spend their time. And there's so much competition, even in the straightforward how-to, information overload style of content marketing that we do. Just make it fun. And here's some ways I think you can do that. You can lighten up. You can tell a story. You can push emotional buttons, like I talked about before, tapping into your reader's pleasures and pains. You can ask questions. One of my favorite right there. I mean, if you try today, if you've never put a question in a string on LinkedIn or a tweet, instead of making a statement, make a question. You're going to see readers get more engaged. You're going to see more sharing. Introduce characters. Speak to memories, values, and dreams, right? We're all humans, whether we're talking about, a business-to-business selling proposition or something playful and more mainstream in the consumer space. We still have values and dreams. And finally, use your sense of humor. Remember, most importantly, who are you talking to? You're talking to the reader, so you're talking about the reader and not about yourself. How else might you overcome boredom? Give it rhythm. I read a great piece. I'm a big fan of Henneke at Enchanting Marketing, and just this week she wrote a post about rhythmic writing, and she dedicated it to me because I once upon a time called her a very rhythmic writer, and that's exactly the case. When I read her writing and a lot of my favorite writers, I feel like it's a piece of music. And so one of the ways that you do that is you don't a big mistake that you'll see is a writer writes a 5-word sentence and follows it with a 5-word sentence and follows that with another 5-word sentence. Don't do that, okay? That lacks rhythm. That gets monotonous and boring. So here are some of my best examples about how to inject reading or a rhythm into your writing. Write a brief opening paragraph. Okay, this is not talked about or understood enough. You make a psychological decision as soon as you begin to read an email, a blog post, a landing page, whatever, about how's this gonna be? Is this gonna be easy? Is this gonna be fun? Is this gonna be interesting? Well, if you start with long sentences and long paragraphs, I psychologically shut down and go, oh, bored, this is gonna be work, I'm out of here. Make your first paragraph, or at least your first sentence, or some combination thereof, fast. Use more paragraph breaks, okay? We are no longer in the newspaper and novel era. I mean, of course, newspapers exist and novels do too, but online we have shorter attention spans and a higher degree of fatigue. You need more white space on your pages with more paragraph breaks, so limit paragraphs to 3 or 4 sentences. Go back now and look at websites that don't convert well or web pages that don't convert well. The paragraphs are too long. The openings are too boring. Vary your sentence length. I already talked about that one. Use subheads. A lot of times people will get to the page. I'm looking at my cheat sheet now for what I'm telling you, and it's full of subheads so that I can skim. I get to a page. In this case, I'm talking about an online page such as, let's say, a white paper or an ebook, and I'm going to present a lot of information. Well, my eyes are going to go up and down the page, and I'm going to make a decision based on what I see in subhead as to whether I'm going to start right there, which I might, or go to the top and say, this one's for me. Use keywords in your subheads and write more subheads than feels comfortable to you. Not just another idea about how to break it up. Bullet lists too. Maybe you wrote a sentence that goes, a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Good opportunity to put a colon there, hit a return, and make a list. Use photos, some eye candy. And beneath those photos, put captions. I don't know about you, but if you open, let's say, a printed piece, a catalog, or a brochure, and I think this applies to your online experience, your eye goes directly to the image and then the caption below it. I'm a big fan of writing captions for every image and making sure those captions tell very big stories. Might be the only line besides the headline that gets read. And then if you're using characters or using experts in your stories, or even if you're quoting yourself, use that magazine technique where you're doing pull-out quotes. Web copy needs to be skimmer friendly. So that's sort of the moral of the story on this slide. Your copy stops working when it feels like work, right? So that's my story about overcoming boredom and some of these other themes. If it feels like work, it is work, and we don't like to work. We like to have fun. So make your copy fun. All right, so we move on to another chapter now. Now I'm moving on to friction. And again, you'll see some overlap. I mean, you might even make a case that friction is this general idea of comfort, right? When I'm uncomfortable, I'm feeling friction, something's in my way, something's preventing me from finding the information I'm looking for, from enjoying myself, and so all bad, right? We want to create a comfort zone. Let's talk about this. This is a definition of conversion rate. I told you I'm not the most analytical or mathematical man in the world, and I often allow intuition to guide what I write. But I think I picked this up from my friend Andy Crestadiner, or one of those analytical geniuses that I follow, and they wrote as follows: desire minus friction equals conversion rate. Pretty simple. I love that. Easy math, okay? Remember we talked about some examples at the top of the webinar. I'm here because I want to go play in Vegas. I'm here because I want to start a Shopify website. I'm here because what were my other examples? Oh, I want to find a date. Okay, so friction gets in my way, and that reduces my conversion rate. So give readers what they are looking for, and so I think here's yet another antidote. The antidote for friction is ease. Okay, people are looking for easy street. The easy button. If you're American, or if you have Staples as one of the advertisers in your country, then you see that they've been banking on that idea forever. A little easy button. Well, ease is what we're all about, right? And it's a noisy online world. So introduce the idea of ease. Now there's 101 and then some ways that you can do that, but I think I've offered a short list of examples here because this is the type of words that you use in headlines or titles of assets that you're trying to get people to attend, download, consume, share, what have you. So shortcuts. People want shortcuts. People want systems. They want formulas. Fast tracks. People want accelerators. Templates. Talk about a shortcut. If you've never offered a template in your content marketing, try it. Right? People love templates. Cheat sheets, the very popular device in headlines. Checklists, oh my God, that they're so popular because they work, and other devices too. The A to Z guide is one of the tricks in my bag. I just showed you the A, B, C, D, E thing. Once upon a time, I wrote a post called headlines, and each letter in the word headlines spelled out a tip when you went through the post, and the infographic that I built, headlines indeed was an acronym. So, I'm saying this is going to be easy to remember. This is going to be easy to consume. Show your readers the easy path. Say, this way to get, to accomplish this task immediately and quickly and painlessly. What else can you do? You can reduce risk. I think perhaps this is obvious, but needs to be said. People are always thinking, what if, yeah, that's a good story, but not me, not now, not here. There's always like, yeah, but my profession, things are different. People's fingers, excuse me, as I mentioned before, we're always on the back button, right? We have very short attention spans. We're multitasking, and so we need some security. So I grabbed this list from a HubSpot post. Thank you, HubSpot. And if you zoom in or squint, and you can see that large enough, you'll see these words are good words to use on the page to help reduce risk. Top of the middle column, guaranteed. Kind of the age-old, timeless word that's job is to reduce risk. And so think about these things that I have as bullet points down below. This what if that always lingers in the mind of the reader. Introduce safety nets. Say, well, if I'm going to take your money, you can have it back. Or, even if you can't make that offer, talk about how little a risk it is to spend a small amount of money. Or if it's a large amount of money, how it's returned a great return on investment to people that have made this investment. That would be social proof, another form of reducing risk. So address fears with reasons to make your prospective buyer fearless. Simple as that. Speak to their dream. Okay, we enter the world of psychology again, but I mentioned this before. There's always that yeah, but not me thing. Don't allow that to happen. Help readers imagine the satisfaction of realizing a positive outcome. Think about how many headlines you clicked today or this week that had a little success story involved in them. How to double your email database in 30 days. Right? That's the positive outcome. That's the dream. I'm dreaming of having more email readers, whatever that might be. We're all in different industries, and of course, my examples are generally marketing. This is a great tactic, and you'll see me use it very often. I think I'm sort of translating it from an epic blogger whose name is John Morrow. He once was an editor at Copyblogger, and he's written posts that millions of people have read, and now he's the founder of Boost Blog Traffic, and he shared this one with me, and I use it all the time. It's a very effective technique where you empathize with the person with which you're writing to by saying, I once had the problem you're facing, right? Like if it was about this presentation, I might say, I used to really fear copywriting tactics, and I felt like I didn't know how to write such that my web pages would increase conversion. Well, I'm about to tell you the easy way to overcome that because I did it. Now I'm going to share my solution with you. So share the problem and speak to the person as if you understand and you were there once too. You're overcoming objections basically when you're doing that, and this is an example. This is something I wrote. This actually is a good example in that it's the most read thing I've ever written, I think. It's one of them anyway. It's certainly the most popular piece I've written in the last year. And a little quick story behind it. I was talking keywords, SEO, with a number of clients, all from the same company on the other end of the phone. And I was going over their heads, and they were getting bored, and I was sort of told to cut it out. And my client said, hey, Barry, can we have a 15-minute meeting next week where you explain to us everything we need to know about SEO in 15 minutes? And, I didn't laugh in her face, but I sort of laughed and thought, yeah, that's going to happen, 15 minutes. But I love a challenge, so I wrote this post, and I called it SEO Simplified for Short Attention Spans. Now, it's not really a call to action, and therefore maybe it's not a perfect example of a conversion lesson. But when you see this is what you see at the top of a blog post, and you might see it on Twitter. So conversion is to click and to start reading in this case. And so I was thinking about the way people might object to a story about SEO that takes 15 minutes to read. However, brief 15 minutes is, it's actually a fairly long story. It's about 3,000 words. So I said, I put myself in their position. I thought, well, I don't have the time, and I don't like SEO. It's complicated. And so I thought, well, this is a simplified thing, and if you have a short attention span, this story is for you. And so a nice success story because of the popularity of this post. So that's an example of overcoming objection. Well, I've got 2 more chapters and 5 to 10 more minutes. So yeah, start thinking about your questions. I'll stick around at least till the top of the hour. It looks like there's approximately 25 to 30 people here. So I'm hoping that you're working on a good question for me about copywriting and conversion. I've done this before, and I've answered some wonderful questions. And then again, you can find me on Twitter later if the questions come to you later, or if you're watching this for a second time, or downloading it or what have you. So I'll move on now to Chapter 6, Lack of Trust. And, I'll move to the next slide. All right. Well, if you're a marketer, you know the holy trifecta of marketing, right? In sales and marketing, we succeed when we get people to know, like, and trust us. And getting them to know us, it's a challenge, and we have a lot of channels to do that. And to some degree, we assume when we're talking about conversion that they do know us, right? Well, we just became aware of the Feldman Creative brand, and that's the website I'm at, something like that. But do you like that brand? We got work to do. We got to make it fun. We got to make it educational. And do you trust that brand? That's the hardest one of them all, right? That's when people, when people are thinking about parting with their money or making some sort of commitment of either time and or money, we are looking to earn their trust. How do you do that when you write? You write conversationally, right? We have an epidemic of journalists out of work because of the decline of the popularity of newspapers and magazines, and going to work for brands. And you can sort of smell this brand journalism thing, an expression that I absolutely hate, because I don't think what we do is journalism. I think journalism is objective. And when it's not objective, we're warned in advance. Somebody's going to do an editorial column or a three-dot column or some sort of Q&A show. Well, blogs are not journalism. And content marketing is generally not journalism. And often we are forced to read this dry, unconversational, third-person style writing, and it's boring. We want to feel like we know the person and the author, and we want to trust them. And so write conversationally, and do that by being casual. Do that by being caring, right? It's kind of an old, worn-out cliche. I think it was Roosevelt that said it, but he said, people don't know people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So try to create the impression that you do care, or hopefully you actually do care. Be direct, be simple, and then in terms of grammar, break the rules, right? There's sort of a United Nations on the line here today, so I'm not exactly sure, how you were educated in language, or if you're doing English language websites, I'm not sure how you were educated on English writing, but if you're, like me and raised in the United States, and you were taught to write very formally in high school, and then even more so in college. And the academic style of writing is going to be a miserable failure online. So you need to break rules and not worry about starting sentences with and but, and can use contractions and one-word sentences. Whatever your grammar checker might say isn't acceptable. Is wrong. You can break any rules. I'm not saying if you write something, a whole page of things that are grammatically incorrect, then you're just exposing that you can't write. But break rules in terms of being conversational. Try to make it like your page actually is a conversation. All right, this is my favorite part of the presentation. I hope you enjoy this too. I say we talk too much like marketers because we're not listening to our customers, and I'm about to show you what I mean by that. I lied. First, I'm going to quote my friend Ann Hanley. Ann Hanley, this is precious, and if you're looking for the ultimate reference and writing guide to today, there's lots of writing guides published over the time, but this one came out just last year, and it's called Everybody Writes, and it's from Ann Hanley, wonderful writer and the Chief Content Officer, and I think founder at Marketing Props, and I'm a big fan. And she wrote this. It's funny and it's a keeper, and it speaks to this important idea that's weaved throughout this presentation about creating a comfort zone, and that is develop pathological empathy for your customer. Translate that to mean I need a persona. I need to know exactly who I'm talking to. Sometimes you're talking, right to your mom, right to your friend. Well, here it might not be your mom or your friend because you're asking for a stranger's money. Get to know that stranger, understand them, be empathetic with what their pleasures and pains are. All right, so now, oh, sorry, this this software doesn't show me a preview of the next slide, so I don't have the sequence memorized. But I wanted to make this point before I get to my favorite part, which is a very important point. Use first and second person voice when you're writing online and thinking about conversion. Meaning, I am I. You know, I don't call myself Feldman Creative or Barry Feldman, and you are you. You know, that's first person voice when you're talking about yourself, and second person voice when you're addressing your reader. And try to avoid as often as you can. It's not always possible, but try to avoid the third person where you're talking about the name of your company as the name of your company. You know, sort of a nice middle ground if you have to do that is say we. You know, sort of another form of I. I think, yeah. I might have to reorder these suckers, but here I'm going to show you now that slide you recall where I said, you know, the picture is the guy's got his fingers in his ears, and we're not listening to our customers, and we're, you know, therefore we're impeding the success of our marketing. And so again, back, you know, I don't know, 10, 20 slides ago, I talked about marketing jargon and bull. Maybe it was a little more before that. Here's an example. It's probably not the worst headline I've ever seen, nor is it the worst landing or homepage I've ever seen, but it certainly is a little mysterious and oblique. This is in the popular category of marketing automation, and I use that because, you know, I'm a marketer and many of you are too. And so you're familiar with a lot of these products. HubSpot jumps to mind first. I think, you know, they have one of the larger segments, and Marketo, and, you know, the list is long. So here's an up-and-coming player, and I believe they're doing very well. And I think their mission in life is to simplify marketing automation platforms, which, you know, generally are not real simple. And they're called Autopilot, and their page says, create remarkable journeys. So again, I suppose you can be more jargony, but I don't know what journeys are. You know, I guess I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'll say they're talking about customer journeys, you know, but that was marketing babble to me. And so let me show you what I've done. I've fixed it, or at least I like to think that I wrote a better headline. I wrote, finally, marketing automation software isn't a pain in the butt. And I left everything else alone, the voice of the customer. Now, awesome writing, right? Okay, well, you know, I'm not that vain. I didn't really write it. I'm not going to take credit for it. I fixed it. I fixed it based on David. I was cruising through Autopilot's website when I saw a collection of happy customers. One of them is this guy. His name's David, obviously. And he wrote, other solutions out there are a pain in the butt. I'm like, oh my God, that's how people actually talk, right? Marketing automation, it's new, it's tricky, it's expensive, it takes time to learn, and it's hard to execute. It's a pain in the butt. You know, so let's look back again. Create remarkable journeys. Ho hum, what are you talking about? Why am I looking at an animal fur? What does that have to do with marketing automation? All right, I didn't have time to fix everything, so I fixed the headline. You know, this was a copywriting course. Finally, marketing automation isn't a pain in the butt. And here is its author, not a copywriter, but a customer. How about that? Thank you, David. So I hope you like that. I'm about to do it again. Another marketing automation platform, pretty popular one. You might have heard of them. See them sponsor a lot of stuff and put out a lot of good content, webinars, and so forth. But horrible page here. Empower your sales and marketing team. Boring. You know, big word, empower. I don't know what. I'm not sure what they actually mean. The only thing they've done, I guess, is qualify the readers if they actually are in sales or marketing. And then visually speaking, I don't know what they're banking on there. A big mess of Microsoft stuff. Perhaps you know, those are recognizable to you. But I fixed it. Hand hot leads over to your sales team fast. Isn't that what marketers want to do? Isn't that what they're challenged to do? Isn't that what the sales team want from marketers? Hot leads. Again, great headline that a customer wrote for me. Here's a page from their website. Now we're getting more leads. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip to the underlined part. We're able to hand hot leads to our sales team to generate sales more quickly. Time and money, baby. That's business-to-business marketing. Hand hot leads over your sales team fast. Okay? Compare that to the boring headline about empowering your sales and marketing team. And finally, offer proof. This is often called social proof. It was dubbed that way in Robert Cialdini's landmark book about the psychology of influence. The book itself is called Influence. If you're not familiar with it, you might grab that book. He points out 6 principles of persuasion, and one of them speaks to this idea of social proof. You know, when forced with a tough decision, we go with the crowd, with the popular option. And so, great page here, a great piece of a page from Kissmetrics, who certainly knows a lot about conversion. They're in the conversion business, and they offer social proof in many forms here. First is a headline that has statistics in it. It's very detailed. Next is the person that said that line, and his picture and his name and his title and his company, so I trust it. You know, it's not a make-believe person. Then is the number of clients they had when they published that, or approximately. It says over 1,600 companies use Kissmetrics. And then some logos of big brands that you might recognize that use their products. So use social proof in one way or another. These are 3 ways. There's lots of ways, rating systems, and you know the list is long, certifications, accreditations, awards. All right, final chapter, and we'll save some time for questions and answers. Mystery. Again, we kind of come full circle, right? We started with confusion. I get to a website, I don't feel a connection, there's not a lot of clarity, I'm lost. Maybe I'm distracted. Well, wrap it all up again. I am perhaps a little redundant, but I do not want to solve mysteries. I want to get what I'm looking for quickly. So give your reader ultra clear directions, okay? And don't skimp on the words. You know, in the interest, if it's again a battle between clarity and cleverness, go with clarity. But if you're wondering about whether you need to count characters or words, no, just make them count. So look at this. Not the brief headline, not a brief subhead, and certainly not a brief button where you normally would see, you know, click here, or submit now, or download, or whatever. Buffer, here's the headline. Buffer is the easiest way to save time on social media. That's a good one. We all want to do that. Social media is time consuming. And then another great line that starts with an action verb, simplify. And then a wonderful button, start scheduling posts on social media. Beautiful. I mean, there's no mystery here. I know exactly what their what their selling proposition is, and I know exactly what they want me to do, and very high chances I'm going to do it because of the way that they've removed the mystery and increased the clarity. And one choice wins. Okay, so there was a point in this slide deck when I showed you a landing page that allowed you to navigate. Generally speaking, landing pages should not allow you to do anything but fill them out if they have a form, or click the button if they have a button. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying more choices equals less conversion. Okay, when you introduce risk by saying here's a selection of stuff, you know, realistically speaking, you know, to some degree, you have to have a selection of stuff now, and then your home page is going to have lots of options. But pages that have very clear call to actions should have one choice, and therefore that's the choice that the reader is going to make. Use compelling verbs. This might be my last tip here, but you'll see that I've shown you lots of examples of that throughout this presentation. And look on this page. 4 times in a row, they use compelling verbs to start their sentence. So the first one is actually the word start. The second one, compound verb, it says take care of your business anywhere. So take care is a verb. And the button says get started. It doesn't say click here, although click wouldn't be the worst word in the world either. It is a verb, but you know, it's kind of a predictable one. And then it says contact sales. Start, take care, get, contact. Great landing page. And here's some other examples. Try, reserve, buy. You know, when you're writing like a creative composition in school, you're often asked to write with a lot of adjectives, and it becomes flowery. It doesn't translate well to marketing. You want to dial down the adjectives and dial up the verbs. We're talking about action, right? Call to action, conversion. And finally, think about this. I didn't know exactly where to put this slide, but we talk a lot about landing page, and to me that's sort of an ambiguous term that really only means, you know, I landed here, which it could be any page. But generally speaking, like I said before, you know, we're talking about a page created to create some sort of action, you know, where the marketer knows exactly what they want you to do, and the success is measured by the percentage of people that do that. But not every landing page has a form on it. And so I want you to think about every page either as a landing page or a leading page. Therefore, you still want to think about conversion, because therefore you still want your readers to take action. So sometimes that action is leading, you know, go here now, watch this now. Those are the 7 things that I covered today, and I hope I showed you examples that made some of them clear. And you can have this presentation. It's based on a long post. You can have that, and I believe your hosts today are going to archive it for you to watch again or share. And that's it. I'm Barry, and I hope that the lesson I gave you today is that by conversion, we don't necessarily transform readers. We make them feel good about taking action now. That's what I call the comfort zone. My handle on Twitter is @FeldmanCreative. My website is feldmancreative.com. You see my logo there, and I'm available to you. You can come on over and put yourself on my email list. That's about my only call to action. Let's keep in touch. If you learned something today, get on my email list and you'll keep learning stuff. I have an amazing amount of content, but I don't have a bonus offer for you today, and I don't have a freebie, and I'm not offering $1,000 off if you act now, okay? So I was just here to be helpful and help you with your conversion. So I'll leave that slide up, and I'll hand it back to our host, Antone, and see if we have any questions that I can answer. Thank you.
Paul asking you something about concept. You have to read it for sake of recordings.
I gotta find it then. It's over on the left.
Yeah, they're on the left. Yeah, left down there. Paul.
I know Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Paul and I exchanged words yesterday on LinkedIn. I love Paul. He's nearby and in the same business and a veteran of.
Okay, still there is a question, isn't there?
But I don't see where there's a question. He says, takeaway. It's not just words, it's the package the words are wrapped in, including layout, color, type, image, etc. I'm certainly not going to argue with Paul there. I didn't make a presentation about graphic design, and I think Paul comes from the other side of the house.
Yeah, definitely.
But, certainly I wanted to show a lot of examples of well-designed pages. So Paul's point is very well taken that, not only are you trying to make people feel things and comfortable with the words you choose, but you want to present them in ways that are as consumable and as friendly as possible. So great comment, but I don't see where it's a question.
Okay, guys, do we have any questions? It was a kind of a longish webinar today. Usually we have a slightly short, but never mind. I guess any questions, guys? Okay, if you don't have any questions right now, you might come up with the questions later. And Barry said he's available on Twitter. His Twitter was there. It's Feldman Creative. Okay, Ola said presentation is just amazing. Thank you very much. Barry, anything else, guys? We still have a few minutes to go. A few minutes to ask Barry live. After that, you have to do it online. Well, we're still doing it online anyway. Okay,
maybe it was so complete. All the questions are answered, but I'm seeing some great feedback. I don't know if you have a survey for people, but if the feedback is appreciated. Paul points out a favorite point that I said that content marketing is not journalism, so we're on the same page there. I think you should have a point of view.
But you have a question from Alona.
I thought you said we're out of time. How to get to know what clients' problems are reduced. Well,
you have to.
The questions are sort of down the same path. Real quickly, people want to overcome objections. So you need to get to the source of the objections. So if you don't have access to your customers and finding reasons why your conversion paths didn't work, you need to get access to your customers and talk to non-customers, I guess, or prospects that didn't convert. And if that's impossible for you, or that's not a fast enough solution, go to the source. Go to your customer service people. Go to your salespeople and see why deals are falling apart, and make a list of objections and write to them. Overcome those objections. You can't do it unless you know what they are.
Okay, guys, we out of time. Tomorrow is another webinar. Check our website. Check our YouTube channel. Every single webinar will be uploaded there. Okay, thank you very much for everybody who came here tonight. Thank you very much, Barry. You found the time very early in the morning. You need to take coffee to stay up. Okay, thank you very much, guys, and goodbye.